Well, hey, folks, we are going to continue working on this book cover commission that I have going on. And so give me a second here to check my signal, get through my intro spiel, and then we'll get to work here for a couple hours. So hold on tight while we check our signal. If you're checking this out, signal, there we go. If you're catching this, checking this out, hey you, I said be quiet. If you're catching this, checking this out, hey you, that stupid little dismissed YouTube thing popped up. It's like, get out of my way. If you are catching this in the future after the stream, you can skip forward like a minute or two as I get through my intro bits. Hey, how you doing, Lily? Let's see. Check here. And so, quick intro spiel for folks that are new to the channel or that are showing up. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, supplements, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. Buttons, there we go. I've got a history of doing freelance artwork before I started doing game design. There's a slew of links in the description down below that show you the type of work that I create, and there's probably about 150 different illustrations among the different works that I've published on DM's Guild already. They're all free previews, so whether you're on if you're on a desktop, there'll be a free preview button underneath the cover illustration. If you are on a mobile platform, there'll be an eye icon on the right-hand side of the screen. Whichever way you click into it, there is a PDF that'll pop open, and it'll show you an extensive free preview of it. If you're here for the artwork, there's probably about 150 different illustrations among those books. If you're a D&D enthusiast specifically, then the stuff that I build is meant for both players and DMs, both sides of the screen. I run campaigns from level 1 to 20 in about 200 to 250 hours. So the stuff that I publish are things that I personally use in my own campaign. Either I developed them and then ran a campaign because it's cool, or I needed the tools for a campaign that I then developed. Currently, I also do book commissions. My history was in freelance illustration until I got involved in 5e. So I still take I'll do one commission at a time. I typically do it on Saturday mornings like this. When I'm between commissions, I'll work on personal projects like ship designs or different campaign ideas and stuff. Like when this book is done, I'll be done for, I won't take on another commission until sometime in 2024, and I'll start working on campaign development for the Martial Powers playtest content I'll be doing from level 3 to 7. And my own Spelljammer campaign with my home table that will be an E6 campaign that'll be a guild resource growth campaign where the team is picking characters every adventure to for them to use as a user interface in the game environment, and the goal is to increase the power and influence and resources of the organization, the guild that the players are going to run across multiple characters as a sort of platoon style of campaign play that I talk about occasionally. So let's see, I have posted on Twitter that I am active. You can follow me on Twitter to get notifications when I'm live for everything that I do at Phil Kearney. Best way to support the channel overall is like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I've picked up Willie, thank you, and others that have jumped on board. I really appreciate it. Trying to get to my first major milestone is 500 subscribers. For the artists out there, when we hit 500, all the brushes that I use in my illustrations that you can see here, all these different brushes, I will get rid of the ones that have proven to be ineffective and curate the list so it's a tight group of all the landscape, creature, armor, weapon, and flesh design work that I do. With all these unique brushes, I'll pull them into an ASB file and put them on my Patreon at no cost for people just to go pick up and use. And there's like 700 hours of content here for you guys to take a look at how I use these different tools together. But I'm always happy to do a tutorial on any particular piece when they're available for people. They pick them up and they're wondering about what the different tools are for, if it's not already obvious. So anyway, we're doing this book cover here. We're at episode 11 right now. My goal is to be done by the end of the month. A major significant improvement, or rather development since last week, was we've actually finished the mecha that we were commissioned to do. As you can see, here's the ladder that'll lead up to the Helm's room. So this is a this thing occupies a 100 by 100 foot space. It's 70 feet long / tall and 50 feet wide without having it's got a wide grip here currently, but using my Spelljammer rules, this construct would occupy a 2 by 2 space at the 50-foot scale and does potentially hundreds of damage when it can attack with its primary dimensional cannon. What it does is the helmsman imagines a location that they pictures a location that they know in their mind as the target. The weapon then fires, creates a dimensional rift that destroys a 100-foot area at the destination. So it just shells out the area, and it holds open an arcane tunnel or an eldritch tunnel to lead from where you fired the weapon to where your imagined destination is. So by this means, the weapon could, say, be in the 15th layer of the Abyss. Imagine a location in, say, like in the outer burbs of Waterdeep, and it would then be able to create a boom tunnel that destroyed the location where it arrives at and hold open that portal for troops from hell to spill through, and then the machine itself could crawl through in the end. So that's kind of what we have depicted here. This is the threat that Enravin's weapon poses to the campaign multiverse, and it's a 3rd tier adventure, so like 14th level characters, I think. And that's a suitable threat for like 14th level characters to be fucking around with. Like, if these things get mass produced, that would evolve into a 20th level campaign where you've got demons basically punching holes through reality that to send the blood war out everywhere it can possibly get a picture in its mind for. And demons have very long memories, so it's a great campaign threat for a 3rd tier adventure. I'm stoked to be a part of it. Andy, who created the adventure, is my co-writer for the Eberron adventure that I stream on Mondays and Thursday nights. And once the Spelljammer book that I've been working on in the mornings, Monday through Friday, once that publishes, the Eberron adventure that I wrote with Andy will become my morning project Monday through Friday, as we're working through we're pretty much done with the map, so we're working through tokens, and then once the text of the adventure is resolved, we'll be able to start breaking the book apart and then putting in maps and spot art to then publish that adventure on the DM's Guild as well. And all this stuff is on the DM's Guild, which is listed down below. This is actually an extension, as I understand it, from Out of the Abyss. I guess Enraven is somebody that you can encounter down in the Underdark, and so I guess she's been ambitious in creating new eldritch machines to terrorize the multiverse, and this is one of her side projects, which is presented as this high-level side quest adventure. So without further ado, that's all our setup. I'm happy with the weapon as it is. It hit all of the marks that Andy, our patron, requested. You can still see the environment and stuff. I still have to fix the portal. I need to resolve the text, but for today, I think what I'm going to do is resolve the environment around it with the lighting. Like, this lighting is good. We're going to keep this lighting effect. But I now have to dig up the tarmac here where its claws are gripping in. So we'll be chomping up the landscape a bit and creating some foreshortening for its position on the map. And we'll also need to be doing some highlights here inside of the forest to reflect that this portal is part of what's happening to the environment, so it has proper highlights to reflect that, which is going to be a pain in the ass considering all the branches. Luckily, the things are being burned to cinder, so I think I can be abusive in the production here. So let's see, where are we at? Front left. Here's the weapon itself. Foreground. I think where I want to be now is creating here. Scrub my face down real quick. Okay. Oh yeah. Updates. There is no bottom tagline anymore. So we are getting rid of the additional text here. I'm gonna drop it in here just to keep it as a keepsake. But this space at the bottom of the page just got freed up from the direction that I received. So I can now take the frames and the illustration itself, frames and good stuff. I've got something is locked. All sorts of shit is locked. Let's unlock all this stuff and see what I can do to actually push. Maybe yeah, I want to try to push all this shit down. So bump, 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 and we'll unlock all that stuff, and then we'll go. God's willing. I don't have more things that are locked away, hidden in the layers. Of course I do. Of course I have things locked up and hidden away inside here. By locked up, I mean I have locks on different tabs or frames in the tab. So now I have to go through the fucking... You know what? Honestly, I don't need to be doing this right now. I can do this off time. I'm learning to prioritize my time with you people. Thank you. What do you mean, you people? When we come back, what I can basically do is... Here, let's change this background so you can see it. Okay, so here's the frame of the page. What I can do is push down this margin here and this blank space down to probably around here. So I can buy up some inches down, like an inch or two down here, and open up more black space up here to help better frame the title of the cover. But there's hidden layers in here, and I only have so much time today, so I'm just going to keep moving on. So, what? There's text. I recently rewatched that movie. Tropic Thunder. Right. Yes. Sorry. I forget my references that I'm making fun of these sometimes. Thanks. Yeah, fun movie. So let's get into this. We're going to let's just be casual here and work on some of this stuff. We're going to switch to where's my bark brush? Bark brush. Bark brush is my mountain chisel. It does double duty. Where are you at? Come on, buddy. I don't like the revised chisel. I'm going to delete that one. It just never really worked out. There, mountain chalk chisel. You'll see me using this on asteroids and mountains. If you go back to the beginning, like the first episode or two, you saw me using this mountain chisel here to art in all the highlights on these mountains that are faded into the background here. You can see me using that, but I also use it for bark. So here's how that goes. We take the tool here and then we drastically reduce its width. And now it becomes more of a toothpick. And then with the highlight that we have, wait a second. I must be doing something wrong. There we go. I can take this to like maybe about 30%, 40% opacity. Let's see how that hangs. And we can put this down like this. And then we can take the same brush and we flip it over the opposite direction and we can erase. And that creates this highlight effect. I want to push that up a bit. So we'll be doing some tracing here. And I have like around 70% opacity on the eraser here. So when I tap the eraser across, it creates all these little breaks. Super easy way to make trunks, branches, etc. And I increase the size a bit to help with the foreshortening. There, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing today. We're doing we're knocking down trees and shit. We stream 6 days a week Monday through Friday in the morning, we do Spelljammer page art for the Spelljammer book that we've been creating that we'll also be publishing on DM's Guild. Mondays and Thursday nights, except for Thanksgiving this week, we'll have Thursday off. I don't know what my schedule looks like on Friday, though. I'll either be completely AFK on Friday, or I'll have like 3 sessions on Friday. I guess it just depends. I don't know what family and friends are doing this holiday. So once I know this week, I should know this weekend what folks' schedule's like. So I'll know whether I'm going to be streaming a shitload or hardly at all this week. So we'll find out. You'll find out when I do, and once I know, I'll lock in with you guys. But the Spelljammer book coming along very nicely. I'm very pleased with it, and so I do Spelljammer art Monday through Friday in the mornings. I do Eberron creature tokens for the adventure that Andy and I wrote on Monday and Thursday nights. Tuesday lunchtime, I have the martial power system that I've been developing for martial characters to have the same breadth and depth of options, to have a quadratic class. How do you put it? The quadratic progression of spellcasters compared to the linear growth of martial casters is resolved by having an alternate spell list that martial characters can access, that spellcasters don't have access to, and have a short or long rest resource to use these additional class options, spell-like options. That's what we develop on Tuesday, and that's one of the things that we'll be playtesting. We'll be developing a playtest campaign for us to test from level 3 to 7 once we finalize the document, which I anticipate being in like January, February. What is going on? Do I have soot all over my face? I've started burning firewood. I think I have soot on my face. Like, you see that brake line? I feel like a coal worker. That's awesome. Like, why is there a break in the coloration? It's not like I get that much sunlight. Sorry, I'm just... Anyway. And so when we finish the Spelljammer project, the Eberron project slides forward to the Monday through Friday position. The Martial Powers project slides forward to the Monday and Thursday night position. Developing the campaign also will absorb. Actually, I think I'll do Spelljammer. I'll do my Spelljammer home campaign development on Saturdays once this project is done. But and then I'll occasionally, and then once the Spelljammer thing, once one of those campaigns is resolved, then we'll probably be getting back into Spelljammer on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to continue developing Spelljammer assets to help support the 107-page book that we're working on Monday through Fridays in the morning. So there's a lot of extra ship designs that I want to do. There's the Spirit Guardian / Gundam / War Mech expansions that I want to do, since mecha are as easy to implement into your game as the fighter craft that we already have. You just change the shape from being a bug or a bird or a fish into a humanoid creature, and then just stat out the weapons. Like form is flavor, but the mecha makes it feel like it's something more. So once we release the mecha project, we can, for example, take Big B's Might of the Giants. We can then use our mecha craft, like big gorilla suits that come up and fight fire giants at their own size that they are. So you can start running around, like you can start doing giant maps at the 50-foot scale, or if you want the 20-foot scale, depending on what scale makes sense for the type of giants that you're fighting, the size of the mecha suits that you're wearing, the giant busters, to be able to go in and fight these things at the same scale as they are, and then provide a upsized stat block for giants. So like you can have a 500-foot giant, like they have on the cover, just looming massive in the background. Like those things are way beyond the scale of what D&D and 5e is designed to offer. But with the Spelljammer mechanics that we have, it allows for infinite size creatures to scale up using a pretty generic but reliable model of scaling growth. So we'll have a chance to take a look at that stuff when we get to it. We'll get there. We'll get there. But everything else on this channel, you can see that patience has to be your virtue when it comes to good game design. Otherwise, you punch out content that's kind of shitty. And what we want to do is be able to build things that can continue to evolve over time and be adaptable, so that when we find a better way of doing something, we can just like what Wizards is doing right now with their core books, be able to swap that stuff out. A great difference there is that the DM's Guild always allows you to check the backlog. Like the Color Mana stuff that I have down below, I've updated that stuff I think 7 or 8 times, and D&D Beyond keeps a log of all the changes, and you can always download the revisions, every one of the revisions, if you want to. And so I think it'd be great if Wizards would offer similar with the book updates that they're doing, so you can watch the log changes, but they're not going to do that. That's a lot of work, and it opens them up to what they would probably identify as critique. Anyway, hey, there's text. How much would a commission piece cost? Oh, Jesus, man. A book cover like this could be, depending on the composition, like this depth of detail on a page like this. Like, if you want to own rights to it, so you can use it infinitely, however much you want, probably like $1,500. I'd have rights. I'd retain rights to be able to create prints for it. If you only want a one-time use, probably half that, like $750 for a book cover. So it depends on the complexity. Like like a quarter page, like a little quarter page panel, like this, like something like, say, this size. If it's full color, like complete border, like maybe $200. So I'm not cheap, but I'm not cheap on purpose. I don't take a lot of commissions, and I normally don't like them. It just happens that Andy is a co-writer of my adventure, of my Eberron adventure, and I've worked with him a number of times on other projects in the past. I have a really reliable relationship with Andy, and so I'm more than happy to make time for him. Just like with ukulele bar, Joseph Vargas, who helped me build the Spelljammer book. I was more than happy to make time for the book cover commission that he requested before this one. If Hidden Dave or Adam Hancock or Ryan Langer requested a commission from me, I would make time for those guys, because they have reliably shown up and helped me be able to build things, like have been my editors and my co-writers on stuff. So it also depends on, like, if I make time for you is also really dependent on whether I have an established relationship with you or not. Like, I don't take a lot of, I mean, maybe you're just curious, Willie. I don't think you're designing stuff, so I don't think you're like asking for yourself. I think you're probably just curious. But yeah, I'm really, really picky about who I take commissions with. Not to sound like a snob or anything, but obviously I've got a fuck ton of projects I'm already working through. And the books that I create, I get paid for the artwork that I do in those books when people buy the books. So I secondhand pay myself to do artwork by the profits that come off of the books. So I don't carve out a lot of time to do commissions anymore. I used to do character commissions all the time, and when I would do like a single page commission in color, it'd be $250 to $300 typically. Or like I could do a page sketch for like $75. But it also continues to evolve and change over time. So that's about where I'm at right now. There we go. adding in these branches is super easy, and it looks pretty good. So that's we'll go with tree highlights there. And then we get to go into the, let's find where these things are actually at. There we are. Mid-ground here. Near mid-ground is here. So we'll put in tree highlights. It should be fine here. There, perfect. Perfect, those are good. Nice, that resolved so much easier than I expected. Next thing we get to do is chew up the front end here. So we're gonna start eating up at the terrain here in the front ground. So, yeah, just curious. For reference, a Magic the Gathering card is typically $2,000 to $2,500, and they own it. They take ownership rights of the card, and I think they can do up to 1,000 prints. Like they can sell off a print painting of it, and of course, a lot of the Magic the Gathering artists work in physical paint because they can then sell the physical painting. Digital assets have limited rights because there's no actual physical product. It's only a digital piece, and so you're creating an image versus an actual physical painting is an asset object. So it's treated differently. The asset object is an image, or you can replicate images by taking pictures of the painting. But in digital work, there is only an image that's created. So if somebody buys rights to the image, they're buying ownership, basically of that of the entire piece. So like when I'm doing commissions, when I do commissions, I want to make sure that I'm like reserving rights to sell prints, or sometimes like the difference in cost between exclusive right ownership versus buttons. I think I want to get down to that space there. Let's play down here for a bit. Like the $1,500 versus $750. That's essentially the difference between I can sell this as stock art in a year or two versus I can never sell this as stock art at all, but I could sell it as a print if I want to. So significant difference in retention value for me as a creator. If I give away my rights to sell it as stock art or resell at all, then I have to make enough money in the short term for it to be worth me losing out any long-term profits of resaleability. So artists have to take those differences into consideration when they are calculating their price for what they're like. How much are they willing to? How much can they get away with? What's the quality of production that you have, and the time of turnaround, and your willingness to be directed and make alterations during the project. Versus how much do you cost and what do you opt. So there's a number of variables that go into what do you think you can get away with as an artist. Essentially, it's just the cost of market, like how valuable are you perceived, and do the skills that you are demonstrating is that something that can be valued in the community. So I'm speaking a little weird right now. Don't mind me. That up in there. That's a problem with scammers. Like people which is also why I don't advertise commissions, because there's rampant scammers out there, and you can typically tell there's a scam if they approach you about, hey, I do commissions and I'm looking to make some money. Can you help me out? And then you say yes. And then they're like, great, well, like I said, I'm really on hard times. Can I have an advance on this? And then we'll just do like piecemeal. Like I'll do $200 for a piece. You pay me $50 up front. And then as I move and transition through the piece, you can pay me in $50 chunks over time. That's a scam if they approach you. The way that's what I do. I'm like, you're going to pay me X amount of dollars up front to basically silo my time. And then as I move through the piece, like you approve the sketch, great. Then give me another chunk of investment, and I will develop out that sketch into the color palette. And there's a number of steps that we transfer through during that process. But I don't approach people about commissions. When people approach me about commissions, you are asking for my time up front. If I was approaching you, it's like, hey, give me $50 and maybe I'll show up again with some sort of result for you. But most likely I'm going to ghost on you forever. Like that scammer's just going to ghost after you give them the first installment. They'll get a first installment from 30 people and then bail on the accounts, flush it, and then start a new account with a different identity and different sample artwork that is either stolen off of Reddit or, Google image or whatever. And there'll be a vast inconsistency in the styles that they offer for you to choose from. They're just trying to bait in and sucker you, which is why I don't offer commissions, because I'm going to require money up front, because that's how I don't get scammed, is by you investing in the front end. And like, you can bail on me anytime you want, but you're only going to get what you paid for up to that point. Like, this is paid down to the point where I've already received, I'm getting final payment for this, and then there'll be, once the painting is done, then there'll be a final payment for me to do the dressing of the lettering and the framing. So I get paid in I get paid in is it 4? Yeah, I get paid in 4 phases. Front end investment, I'll build you a sketch approved, put in base colors. That's my second investment. I get my second investment, I insert colors. You like the colors? Third investment equals I will detail it to the point where I think I'm done detailing it. And then my final payment is I'm going to do your page framing. So every time I get paid up front, and for me to move forward again, you pay me again. And for me to move forward again, I get paid again. So I'm getting paid in pieces. Like, you can say, I like that sketch, I'm going to bail on you now because I got somebody who can color it much cheaper. It's like, well, that's fine, but I can use this sketch however I want. Go ahead and commission out that guy to build the thing, that's cool, but I own rights to this sketch. Whoever it is that you're commissioning to color this out, they don't have those rights, and that has to be clear. So these are rules that you put in place so you can protect your time and your space and your integrity. So, which is why I don't offer services. If people know me, they know they can get a commission from me if we have a relationship. But since they are approaching me, it's you play by my rules. If I'm approaching you and I'm trying to dictate the rules, then you have to be wary of a scam. So anyway, word of advice from a long-standing freelancer, and I mod Discord channels. So, well, currently I only mod. I'll have my own Discord up and running once the Spelljammer book is done, because I'll need to launch a Discord channel. But currently I've been a moderator for Indestructiboy's Terran Pounds Discord channel for the past 3 years, and I used to run a clan of Mafia War players on Facebook. We had a guild of 7,500 people when I decided to stop playing. So I have pretty substantial experience dealing with both artistic like art fraud issues from an artist side of the equation, as well as like people jumping into Discord channels and saying, that they join your Discord and then they start spamming members of your Discord, offering them scam art. It's like, nah, yeah, kid, you gotta go. So I'm kind of rambling today. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Just talking about whatever it is that we're talking about. But you can see here that we're digging up this front end here. Now, what I can actually do is take a chunk of this. I'm going to conceal these things right quick. We got this foreground stuff that we're working on here, right? I can grab a chunk of this like that. I can copy all that. I can bring this stuff back in. And I can paste over. And then I can disintegrate it a little bit, and it'll merge in with the stuff that's underneath it, so it can blend properly. And I can just use my same chisel tool here and just chunk at the edges a little bit to be able to break it apart. And I can raise up the elevation a little bit here so that it gets set in a little bit more, and then I can just chisel away at this a little bit. There we go. I'm going to use like what, like 20%, something like that. And I'm just going to erase a little bit here to get some of that shadowy effect going in here. So like literally it's grounding this upchurned tarmac into the terrain. Text, sup? Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course. But like everyone's, you know, rates can always be negotiated depending on, you know, like I've done a lot of trades in the past. Like I've done a couple $100 worth of spot art and character art in exchange for, before I knew how to do layouts, I would trade art for layouts. So like basically like a dollar per page. So however much art you want, we'll convert that to a dollar amount, and then you'll do that many pages at whatever rate you operate at. So it was really easy to be able to build up little collectives that way by people sharing their resources with each other. That's how I started, and started getting, you know, into the RPG creation scene. There we go. That feels pretty good. And then we'll do bump, 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 the same over here. Man, even if somebody offered me like, hey, here's $2,000 for a commission, and it's like, if I don't like the project, I won't take it. Oops. Let's do copy, paste. There we go. Nice. Dig away at this edge back here. Hey, 20-minute timer. I have a 20-minute timer that I set to make sure I don't dive down any rabbit hole for too long, whether it be an aspect, an element of the piece that we're working on, or a conversation that we're having. It's a chance for me to check my head to make sure I'm not too far out of pocket, and to make sure that I'm not wasting my time on a tangent too heavily. I've got some caramel Starbucks in my Moose Munch brand butterscotch caramel coffee. Both the Moose Munch coffee and the caramel flavored Starbucks in a bottle, both of those to me taste like Captain Crunch cereal milk. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. There we go. So that's where that's at. Now let's see if I can layer in some of this highlight inside here. I think I want to go with something like here. I'm gonna grab up, let's see, this is gonna be dug up tarmac. Tarmac is a term that refers to like soil, like topsoil. Basically it's another term for topsoil. like all the plants that are grown into and rooted into like mulch layer. That's tarmac. Like mulch is like imported tarmac. AstroTurf is like synthetic tarmac, but that's generally what that refers to. Dug up tarmac. There we go. Now we'll have these highlights and we'll drop them into the dugout tarmac when it's done. But for now, I want to grab our grass lashes that we were using yesterday in our Spelljammer Ring World art piece, and I'm going to slim that down here. I want to layer in some highlights here. And I can use the same brush to erase. I'll use a larger size, and I'll use like maybe a 60% eraser so that it hems at it but doesn't necessarily get rid of it. I can use this to help highlight the facing ground so that you can get a sense of depth, more of a sense of depth here than what we currently have. So tap, tap, tap. Erase at this to control the angles a little bit better, make it look less like dashed lines. The eraser causes a lot of natural curvature with how the light bends, so we can carve up that space. And we're not doing it so much for realistic highlighting onto the terrain. We're doing it just to get highlights in here that are matching the type of terrain that exists without being like, we don't have to be super accurate. We just want to have like a little bit of a color splash, so that again it pushes the ground into the same space that the portal is portraying, you know, because that portal is kicking off shitloads of light that are bouncing off of the frame of the creature. So we have to have similar sharp highlights in the environment around it, which is what we're pulling off the trees here, and like we can do an edging along the rooftop here as well. But we'll use a different brush, but the same sort of effect, that highlighting that sinks into everything that this creature is pushing. So I can paint over this building because I can just erase at it. I'm going to take all of this stuff that's in here and I'm going to have it connect. And then your eye is naturally just going to create texture out of this. And the texture that we're creating, we're establishing across the piece in different locations what this type of texture represents, which is, for the most part, vegetation, grass, shrub leaves. It's a good general catch-all texture that your eye will just read as roughage and should smoothly transition into each other. So I can then carve away at the building here to help define its texture separately from the environment that the house is built inside of. So you can have that grit there, but I can erase it here. To me, painting is kind of like sculpting, you know? That we lay down some paint and then we carve away at it. Like sculpting is carving away at the medium to reveal the object inside of it. Painting can be the same way, depending on how you control your tools. And here, like I'm saying, I'm using this as sort of a carving tool that I'm laying down textures and then I'm carving out where those textures sit. There, you create an interesting effect overall. And I can come over here and I can carve this stuff into here as well. And then we just make sure that we erase it so it slims down and fits into the composition. We're establishing that presence to make sure that the elements of the piece are helping reinforce the narrative of these fantastical elements, these magical things. that are overriding what the natural laws of the world are. Which is what's really interesting about fantasy art in general, is that it's taking things that are familiar to you, like your environment or a forest or a glade, and it's injecting the impossible into it, and it grounds that impossibility into your environment because it's using the same underlying physics as the reality that the impossible elements are warping, you know? Using the same laws of light, using the same laws of gravity, unless, like, you know, they're magically flying, for instance, and then making sure that the elements of, like, the elements of the environment, like the weather, the wind, those things are all, the angle of lighting, those things are all working together so that it feels like the subject of the piece is properly existing inside of and alongside the environment. I'm at desperate risk of mojo joeing right now, so I'm trying to curb my words a bit here to make sure I'm staying on point. These different types of brush textures and shapes, and having them all stack into each other, and you can see how I'm like deleting the lower edge so that only the top edges of these things are remaining fully present as a highlighting, an effort to highlight and create highlights across the space. But when it properly integrates like this, like there's a large amount of texture that's happening throughout the piece that your eye will just naturally blend together, especially as you pan out a bit. Like all this stuff just kind of bleeds into each other as an environment. But then when you dig in really close, you can see how all the different pieces are actually interacting with each other. So I'll probably fuck around with this foreground for the rest of this session, and then what I'll probably end up doing is monkeying around with this portal effect. I could end up honestly spending a couple hours fucking around with different like patterns and brushes and stuff to get a sort of magical effect that I really like. This is a stand-in right now. And I'll need to reposition the art on the page so I know how much top edge I have to then restructure the words, get approval from Andy, the client, how the words sit on the page. And once he approves that, then I'll have a path to be able to merge this portal into like this bleed effect up into the word. We'll see how that plays out, but I'm not going to do that here on camera. What we'll do is we'll figure out how to do it off stage, and then next week when we come back, we'll be able to execute that, and then that may be the last session that we have. It'll either be done, because it'll be done by the 30th. So this week, well, the 2nd. So we have next weekend, and then the following weekend, December 2nd, is when I seek to have it done. If I can have it done by the 30th, that'd be ideal. But there's still play testing, so there's not an emergency to get the content back right away. But I need to keep moving forward, and since it's a friend project, there is very much the risk that I've already invested way more time than I was originally. Like, if you were a stranger recruiting this, I may not have spent this much time, or wanted to spend nearly as much time. I wanted to spend this much time on the project because Andy recruited me to do it, and Andy's my guy, so cheers. So I naturally want to overinvest my energy, time, and resources into this. So I have to check myself, and if I don't give myself a strict finishing date, it will just continue on and on and on. And although I'm sure Andy will love the increased detail that he would no doubt get in his illustration, at some point there's a diminishing return. And if at some point that cost is me feeling that I've overextended myself, then I start to retreat and lose value in the project, and I don't want to have that happen. So I have to make sure I remain properly emotionally invested in the piece for the amount of energy that it requires to produce it. So there's like a lot of internal hype and stuff that goes on in there, and that feeling of being appreciated has to remain present throughout the whole process. Otherwise, I risk losing inspiration, which then halts the flow of creation, and I can't. I'll fall further behind goal, and then it'll become something I begrudge. So a lot of my internal self-talk is soothing my my sense of it's got to be done faster, better now. Like I have a lot of my self-talk is just soothing that urge to panic over how large of a workload any particular project can be. Because if you panic on it and then you start you'll start resenting it, and that becomes even more destructive to the progress of the piece. And when the entire piece is hinging on your performance, you really can't afford to have a burnout like that happen. And the reason burnout happens is because you aren't inspired anymore. You can sometimes need to refuel your energy, but seriously, a good relaxing date or spa weekend is all that you really need to do to recharge your engine if you're excited about the thing that you're doing. That's you taking a calculated break just to respect your own time space. But if you're excited, it's not like you have anything to be resentful for, because you're excited. Like people that log in, 500 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 don't resent playing that game. If they burn out on the process, they just stop playing. But when you're getting paid to do the thing that you're doing, you cannot afford to just burn out, which is why vacation time at day jobs is so important. And the higher end, higher production, higher value the job is, the less they nickel and dime the amount of time that you take away. Like if you're in real estate and you're making $400,000 a year in real estate and you decide you want to take a month or two off, that's you, because you're on commissions only, right? But at the same hand, like somebody that works for a stock brokerage, if they're outperforming their expected Q by like say 25%, and they decided they wanted to take an extra month, chances are taking that 1/12 of the year off, if that's what you need to do to be able to consistently outperform your goals by 25%, that's a risk. That's a cost reward assessment that most firms will be like, yeah, take whatever time you need as long as you keep hitting your marks. When you start falling behind, we may have a more stern conversation about your time management. But while you're proving to us you can do whatever you want, the more commission or high-end business you're dealing with, the more they allot you to do whatever strangeness that you need to do to come back strong. So that's just business. And I'm wording it like it's all weird, because it really is. It's all just weird. Anyway. There. Okay, cool. So now we have our tarmac. Now I'm thinking about increasing the foliage in the area. So we're going to grab another type of brush. I think we're going to grab our vine brush. Hold on. Oh, I just saw it there and I bounced away from it. Let's go back down into it. This will be a lot of erasing and top edge, like top edge highlight type stuff. So let me see if I can go find it. There it is. Our leaf vine spin brush. Here's how it looks. Well, maybe if I used a color that you could see. Come on, Kearney. There, that's what it looks like. That's right, this area is masked. So I can drop it in there. There, that's what that looks like. So if I were to grab a similar brush like this and like go up to like, I can erase at this thing and make really, really neat effects. Let's see. So that's what we're going to work on now. Jump. Let's see. How do I want to do this? I want to... Yeah, let's keep it wide. And let's go fetch some references, see if there's any cool color that we like. There we go. Here's some of the paintings that I've done before. So I think I want to grab this reddishness here. And how are we looking inside of here? It's kind of like an off purple. That feels pretty good. I think I can go with that. And we just locked up. So the OBS software I use for streaming doesn't play nicely with Adobe products necessarily. So occasionally I have to save, close, and reopen the program so that I can continue pushing pixels on it. It's just I think the graphics card chokes on information somehow. I don't understand it. It's just a thing I gotta deal with occasionally. But we were able to reserve our colors here, so I'm going to start with the purple, dive down into here, and I'm just going to fuck around a little bit. It's not as dark as I want. I want something really stark and dark. Let's do that. Let's make it bend more blue-greenish. Something like that. I bet that'll feel pretty good. So I'm just gonna throw in some ground scrub like this. And then I'm going to erase at the back edge of it. This might end up being garbage. But we're just experimenting right now. I know I want to fill the space with more than just an open glade. So I want to add in some of this added texture here, and I see myself starting to bend around a little bit here to get a little bit more creative with the space. But by erasing the bottom of it, it pushes that, like this is sitting really unnaturally on the page. But if I erase and delete at the bottom edge of it, at the angle of the ground, it then blends in as a very simple bush. So the way that I build these brushes often have these little bends and curves to them, so that I can manipulate them by like for instance, if I tweak down the width of the brush here like this, it gets fatter. So then it can sit in like this, and that feels like a very different type of bush. But also you can see the patterning of it a lot more obviously because it's exaggerated. So then I have to erase at it differently. 20 minutes. How are we looking on time? 10:45. We still got 45 minutes or so. And depending on which direction I'm spinning the brush, presents the bush differently. Push those things in like that. Now the problem I'm going to have here in laying in all this distinct shape with this darker color is that I'm going to have to highlight all of it. So like I said, I might end up erasing all this because right now I'm just figuring out how this stuff patterns together. And then from that, I'll have a prevailing shape that I'll need to basically traipse across here as the highlights. And that highlights will, like all this darker effect here is like kind of providing information about this plant life that we're putting in, but it's the highlights that are going to really lock in the shape of the leaves. So right now it's all just kind of shadow and mucking about, and it's all soft. But once those highlights come in, the sharpness of the highlight will define, will be a lot more defining. I can't hide in the shadows, as it were, with the actual shape of these things and inferences. Shadow creates inference, and mystery, while bright light defines and creates resolution and absolute answers. So it's not worded properly, but I'm working on it. There's a narrative there. And then I put another layer underneath this one so that I can, because the foreground is going to be blocked by the background. So now that I'm establishing that background line, I can feather in some foreground stuff to help flesh out that space there. But these all feel like they're at the wrong angle, so I'm going to do this. Curve that brush just a bit up like that. So it's using the folds of the environment to shape where these things sit. Like that. Now I can potentially merge these down. Poke at that. And then here I can potentially, adjust where this is sitting. Pull this out as a separate area over here. Get out of the way. Down over here, we can erase that a little bit. So we're creating like this mid-ground between the point of destruction and moving our further way up the hill. And then I can do something like further develop like, foreground assets that will help create a border frame to break this all out and make it look like you're looking into a scene. I can control that with vegetation. You see me doing that a lot, actually. What's a good example of that? Let's go to DM's Guild, Color Mana. Here's one of the books I created. And let's go look at, you can see it here. And you can see it here. Not there. Yeah, those are two examples. See, you can see how I use the bottom frame here. Like I do the byline up front here, right? So this is how I do very similar blocking to what we're using here, which of course I get the general format approved by the client first. But since we're eliminating the byline on the cover here, I can drop all of this piece down. Like I showed at the beginning of the stream, I can drop the whole thing down like maybe this much. I can carve that much out of the piece. Where'd you go? There. I can carve that much off of the piece, open up this much additional space here at the top to have that much more black at the top of the page, which you can see is sufficient for the amount of text that I have up there, but it'll push this circle down this same distance, so it'll still feel good. And then that bottom edge that we have, we can prevent the piece from completely cutting itself off on a hard edge like we have up here by using this. Why are you not zooming? Thank you. Hold on. Let's just open this in another image, and then open this in another image. Drop that stuff off frame. There. So there, you can see it, how this all bleeds off, and I use this as like foreground like shadow, like you're sitting in the recesses of shadow looking at this stuff unfold. And in this piece, same thing. I'm using this edging here to like look at the depth of language I have here going on with the landscape here, a variety of different types of brushes that I can use together to create this thick foliage feel. And then I can change the language of that foliage back here for a canopy. I mean, this is a couple years ago, like 2018 that I made this, so my abilities and style have evolved, but the fundamentals, like you can see, I've got a lot of those fundamentals still in here, and it just creates such great ground scrubbage. I like the style of this. That's a Mizium apparatus. This is an Izzet, like an Izzet sorcerer or maybe an artificer. Boros Ranger, Selesnya Druid, and then, of course, Tiamat, the 5-color-headed dragon. But my style, my abilities obviously evolved a lot in the past 5 years. From the work that you've been seeing in Spelljammer, pieces are coming across a lot more crisp now. So I may actually come back and revise this thing to update it with when we do our updates in 2024. I like the general composition of it. I think I would probably design these characters a little differently. I like the composition overall still, but again, like you can see that I've got like this is a little more than just stippling dots. Our brushes have evolved with the type of leaves that we use considerably since then. But the core, the process, the elements of how this is built, I still love, and you can see that sharp comic book level of separation that I was experimenting with even back here, where you got like black, like dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, very light, dark, light, mid-tone, and then end in dark. So you got this dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light thing that's cascading through the piece. Dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, and then edge, dark. So I even then I'd like this striated separation of elements by using different levels of contrast has been something that's been developing in my art style for the past few years, or like 5-7 years, something like that. Anyway, so that's the idea behind this this scrubbage. Let's go to just one more. Games Guild, Nature's Ally. Here's another example. Yeah, and again, you can see the scruffage like spilling over, like it's a table almost. In this instance, I've got scruffage here that's spilling over the edge. And then we have that hard break at the top again. So with this, but you can see this was only like 3 years ago that I did this one. You can already see that the amount of texture information that we're using in the piece is increasing as we're expressing different types of floor and canopy. So, but it's the same basic process, and it's just getting that. I mean, this is a very like almost like Renaissance level of like painting texture style. I'd probably do this differently now if I were to redo it again. But this is a Selesnya garb from the Ravnica Guilds of Ravnica setting. The Selesnya guild is white and green magic. So like this would very much like Selesnya is very much druidic magic or rangers. So this character depicting that is appropriate. But yeah, there's a lot of almost like impressionist style, like Monet. This style is somewhat Monet in format. If you're into the classics, I'm barely into the classic artists, so don't ask me too much. But yeah, I got a really rough texture on this character. Like if I were to go through again, I would do this much cleaner because my style of refining has developed really even more so in the past 3 years as well. So there's a lot of roughness to these pictures. So, but I'm faster now than I was. I'm able to create refined pieces much more quickly than I could back when we started. So if you've been watching the Spelljammer art that I've been doing, and as well as the creation of this book, you've seen the amount of detail and mechanical precision I can have in my art now is a lot higher than what those pieces have demonstrated. But still, at their book cover size, they still look really fucking great. So no losses there. But I'm just talking shop, basically talking about the process. So I'm gonna get back into it here. Thanks, man. Like I said, I did about 120 different Bob Ross paintings back in 2019. No, it's 2017. Yeah, where I develop most of these tools and this information, because all Bob Ross does is stipple and smudge. You have to create. I had to create these unique, different types of brushes so that I could methodically place stipple brushes, because I don't have the same random capacity of infinite variables of brushes hitting the canvas in different angles and arrays to create these different splash marks. Our hand has so many different points of articulation and rotation and pressure that a horsehair brush with 10,000 brushes in the tip, puff, 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 it's all going to hit differently. And so Bob's style leans into that chaos. His techniques basically take learn how to sculpt chaos into recognizable images, which come across as landscape. So great technique, awesome mastery. But once you understand how the mechanics of that, like the physics of that work, once you understand those physics, you can do it just as easily here in Photoshop. If you go back and look at the earlier episodes of this, the forest, the mountains, the sky, the river system, the tarmac, all this stuff, the clouds, it's all using the same basic techniques that Bob Ross does, modified by the limitations of the digital machinery that we use. Our digital machinery is infinitely limited in comparison to the infinite complexity of actual holding a paintbrush and tapping at a canvas. But I don't see color, so I can't do that. My limitations in this life are if I want to work in color accurately, if I want to be able to produce realistic color work, quote unquote realistic, I have to remain inside the digital space, because I can't freehand mix colors because I have no idea what I'm looking at. I have to rely on my color references off of the images that I grab. Like this is one of Bob Ross's paintings that I reproduced. This is one of the earliest ones I've done. You can still see how primitive my branch and leaf technique was, and my evergreens in comparison to, like, say, the Reclamant book cover that I did on my Saturday streams prior to this one. Like, that one has really deep techniques on how to do landscape environments, while this is still super rough, but the colors are still good, so I can still steal color references off of it. And I do like that mountain line. I really like that mountain line, and I like those clouds too. There's a lot going on in this piece that I still love, but you can see the change in style that I have with different pieces. So anyway, it's a work in progress as always. But that's the fun of it, right? We're continuing to evolve, and this is the kind of shit that convinces people to stay alive another 4 or 5 years. Like, art is just such a saving grace for people's soul. So I'm really, I've decided I don't like most of the texturing that came off of that last exploration we had done. But I'm starting to recognize, I think, a little bit of what I like about it. So I'm being far more conservative this time around and keeping it separated and broken up. And just right now leaning on as some shadow inference space just to break up the grassy knoll, as it were. There. And now I want to erase a lot of this just to get rid of most of the patterning. So I don't want it to be overwhelming. I'm going to build a little tuft like that. Tuft like that. Like super easy little scrub effects like that. Just by layering different types of brush textures at different sizes and opacities, creates this neat little like medley of leaves and textures and line and shape. Like, there's a cool little patch of like little dandelions that are kind of just being dreamed into existence here by stacking up these different layers. There, see, just built like this neat little bush thing in here. I'm gonna form some more shape around that, and there it is. See, a neat little thing. Just a neat little thing we just blipped into existence because we're layering our texturing brushes over each other to have these like coinciding, like you can see them here, these coinciding little points inside of here that are all converging over to these two things overlapping. It creates that neat little budding effect. Reduce down the size of the brush a lot like that. And this edge here will eventually be able to evolve into brush shapes like this. That'll be able to sit and hang off the edge to, again, to help grind this piece in. And if we have some consistency in the brushes here and here, you can see like there's like 30 feet of distance between this bush and those bushes. So you're pushing the whole piece back by layering in front of it new columns, new stadium seating that stacks back in the page as it raises in elevation. So you're cheating depth in by using this different texturing stuff. But you have to spend a little time on it at the front and down front so that when you come back through at the back end of it, you'll have that pattern recognition. Oh, these are the same type of plants. So this is the same depth. This is a deeper elevation. I went too far with that. I actually want to leave that one open. Yeah. I like this little smudge. I like this little print area down in here. I like that. I can break that up. All these really fucking badass little shapes in here just by dotting in and then erasing at the bottom so the top edge of it remains and again continues to provide texture and inferred information about life that's growing out of these mounds. Like we're starting to brush up, like this is the edge of the tarmac being broken, so I feel like I have like this little ridge line that's getting pushed back here, just like we were pushing it back here. So ultimately when we come back through, the highlights I want to use here are going to be similar to the highlights I use here. But this is closer, so these are even more clearly defined than what we had. I might end up even coming along here and like doing like line art edging, like little pixel edging along these things to help pull those shapes forward. But I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Right now we're still over here playing in this space. I'm going to actually cordon off this area here, cut that out, drop that in. But yep, right now, oops. Right now, this is where we're at in the piece. So I'm gonna hit save here real quick before something weird happens. And we can use that foreshortening here to help bend the shape around the size of the environment. Like our camera's closest here. So moving that way, if we have the bushes here start to recede in shape as well, that further creates that inference of curvature around this space to help reinforce that this is actually really a really large circle that we're working with here. So I don't want to worry about over there right now. I just want to continue to develop and work this area a little bit more so we can patch this stuff. I should actually make this a separate layer, because it's going to end up overlapping this stuff, and I want to have to fuck around with the anatomy of the stuff down here for me to build this out properly. But we already have all this tuft and vegetation going on in here. It's just a matter of perspective as to whether it's a mound or it's flat ground. So we're going to manipulate the space that it fills right now by adding in some of the same veiny, fern-like texturing that we've been using before we switch out to a different type of ground scrub, because we've just about played out the depth of this shape for now. I need to move on to something else before there's too much samey going on, and then we can come back and visit it again later. But we can curve around this. See, now we're creating depth by covering up this path that leads to that leads to the cabin. Like, we may eventually be able to drop a whole nother tree in here. We'll see what the muse decides this environment looks like and let her just run where she wants and play. Which is the joy of painting. Where are we at? 11 o'clock? Okay, yeah, we're on our last 20-minute kick right now. And just depending on how, like, that leaf shape remains consistent, so you can tell these are all like the same type of plant, but as I push into here and I break up the shape a little bit more, it helps create some genetic diversity. But it's starting to feel too samey. So I'm going to switch gears to another brush and probably swap out some coloring here. Let's see how this sits. That's way too bright. Well, since I'm here, let's see if we can accomplish what we were talking about. See, this will be a pain in the ass to do forever. So what I want to do is figure out my lighting so I know exactly where these things are sitting. Like, this one could be in shadow enough that I don't have to show that one off, but this one, yes, I do. I can even break that stuff apart by inserting highlights where there aren't any necessarily to help further define shapes inside of the space. There, and I can use the dichotomy of the environment around it. Like, the shadow breaks away because of the light on either side of it, but I can like put a tip of it here to help break it away from that shadow there. Here I can put a tip in there, so you can see how that breaks away from itself, and it just helps make it stand out a bit. And I can take a brush here and I can go like with a really low opacity eraser and chop away at that sharpness a little bit so that the edges sink into the shadow that they sit on top of, so it doesn't break out too harshly. There, nice subtle little effect there. Do the same over here. Merge that down, pick this up. Don't need the highlights everywhere, just on some leading edges. See, like there's virtually no difference here. They're very similar. But here, that comes in more useful. I'll break these shapes up with each other. Like that. Erase just a little bit, just to scrub it down into it a little bit more. There. So you can infer a shitload of little neat little shapes and stuff that's going on in this environment by just messing around with it. I'm gonna merge this down too. That leaf looked at me funny, so I wanted to get rid of it. I wanted to destroy something beautiful. away at those bits down there a little too, and then there we go. Some decent separation. Happy with that. Decided he needs a highlight after all. Oops, I should probably put it on a separate layer if I'm going to do that. Make sure we stay free of mistakes. There, like that. You can separate these things away from each other here. Subtle. There we go. No complaint. Here. Like I've said, illustration is a problem-solving art where we're trying to visualize imagination. And the tools that we use to be able to do so, the more we can accurately depict things that actually exist, the more realistic and more you can suspend people's disbelief about depicting things that don't exist. Again, which is why you want to spend so much time making sure that your physics are good and that the composition is strong and that everything is following expected patterns of behavior, so that when you start creating the things that don't follow those patterns of behavior because of fantastical creature or magic as a thing, it'll feel realistic to the audience. They'll be on board that this is something amazing that this character can do in this world that's totally real. Which is why people used to complain about special effects so much, or the orangeness of current effects, of how it doesn't fit into the page correctly, or into the movie. Like, you can tell it's CGI because the way it moves unnaturally, or the way that its highlights don't quite match the environment that it's in. There we go. That's pretty good. So merge that down. And we're just going to start something new. So let's grab a different type of brush and start fucking around. So let's go with, I don't want a brush. That burst spin brush is proving to not be very, very effective. I'm going to be getting rid of that one when I go through my editing process here. Underwater brush, burst spin, foliage stain spin. You're a little bit too rough texture. Let's see how this one cycles. Yeah, that's a good brush. It's very round pixely, but it's still good. So let's go find another color up in our references that can be a little different from what we've used before, but still good and dark. That's good there, and I don't think we're gonna find a lot of variety over here. Let's fuck around over here instead. This could be, that's really good. We'll use that. We use that on a faded color. So right now we'll take this and we're gonna drop its shape down a bit, and let's reduce its size a squat or two. 0. How you looking? Not there. Let's drop them way down into the purple. I'm going to still use the same leaf brush that we're using to create this stuff. I'm going to use it only as an eraser help carve through and start building some space and form inside of here. You can see these little lines snaking up through there to make neat little natural branch effects. Carve there, there. And then I can put over that. Super sharp, too bright. Let's go like 30%. Not sharp enough. Let's try 60. That feels pretty good. Just creating a little ridge line here, and then again we're gonna just cut through it with the same brush, with the same eraser that we've been using here. See, it has like this little dome effect, so I can create all these neat little shapes inside of here by how I drop the angle down like this, and then how I choose to erase behind it to affect the curve that we have in that shape. And I can increase the size of this a bit and then carve away at that. See, you're starting to create depth by having this thing like curling around each other like rolling terrain would. And then again, we'll build up another ridgeline behind that. Go up in here and I can break that away, and then I can erase that a little bit more to have it be less sharp. So the more I erase and blend it into the environment behind it, the more it pushes back away from the camera. So the stuff that's closest to the camera has the sharpest. Now it just looks like a bunch of little wildflowers, right? Hey, what's up? Can you a full sup? Can you a full tutorial for creating amazing KDP cover book? I don't know what KDP is. Creating Amazon. Oh, is that Kindle? Book cover, please. I'm beginner in graphic design. Well, welcome to the mix, my dude. I've never built a Kindle cover. I guess, I mean, offhand right now, no. But it could potentially be something that I integrate into a workflow at some point. Graphic design is a very different beast from book cover, like book cover painting, right? So I'm not sure how useful I'm going to be for your conversation. But I'm not immediately opposed. I'm going to drop down the opacity a bit just to sink that in a little bit more. But now we got this cool little, strafing effect going on here. Strafing is not the word I'm looking for. Let's do here. I want to drop in a little bit of light and you are not doing what I need you to do right now, my man. Let's go fetch that color again. And our computer just locked up again, so I'm going to have to close the program and reopen it because the OBS software doesn't necessarily work with Adobe Studio 100%. So, let's go fetch that color. There we go. Going to drop some higher lights into here. Yeah, sorry, Adil. Don't think I'm properly equipped to answer that in a concise conversation today. And it would take a considerable investment of time for me to build a tutorial class on graphic design for book cover composition. There's probably a lot of stuff that already exists out there. I'm flattered that you want my opinion about it, but it's outside of the scope of my current project. So I can't provide an answer that I would feel is going to be sufficient for you with the lack of time I have to be able to express it. It is in no way an insult or discount to your inquiry, and I appreciate you asking me, but I have to acknowledge the limitations I have on what is available for us to be able to achieve in the time that I stream. And I've got a very, very heavy work docket that can't really afford to integrate that in. Though I will say, next session, if you show up next week, I should be investing a little bit more time in the framing of this. Here, let me get this out of the way. Like, I'll be doing lettering and repositioning a frame and having a conversation about the restructuring of the frame, the 2/3 rule on item placement on side of the composition. So I will spend some time on that next week, just not today. So if you're interested, you're certainly welcome to show up and kick around until we get to it, and remind me if you need. I just can't address it today, I'm sorry. I'm going to erase that a bit. Then we're going to add in another layer with different type of... no, let's stick with the stuff that we're currently using. We can do that a little bit more. I'm going to flatten it just a little bit more to control its presence. And I'm going to use... Let's see if this works. Broaden it a bit. Now I'm going to use I'm going to use my half stroke eraser. I'm going to erase the shapes a touch. Pull this into, it's basically stadium seating is basically what we're working with here. So I'm just using a different type of brush to start introducing a little bit more dichotomy and diversity in here. I can see where I want to duplicate this bush, but then I also want to have it get overwhelmed by a different type of plant here in the front quarter, so we can create some variety in our foliage. So we erase that, and then we're going to bring that in. There. And now we can, I want to bring in, I often use this brush for evergreen pine needle trees, but it works really good for ground scruff as well. So we're going to take this opacity to 100%. We're just going to start layering in this razor wire looking type stuff. It adds a good chunk. With all this delicate refinement we have going on here, like these little poppy seeds and stuff, having a thicker grained, chunkety sort of plant, I can use this same brush here to erase at it. Where are we at on time? 1:22. Give myself another 8 minutes. Yeah, right on, man. Of course, absolutely. If I can't be honest with you, how can you trust my words? But yeah, we're getting to the point in the composition here that like I said, I'll work off screen to fill in a lot of the scruffage here, because this is meditation time for me, honestly. But other than the scrub brush we have going along the ground here, we have to fix the portal white and black burn effect that we have going on here. Which I can do a lot of that off screen, but when we come back next week, reframing this and having the space for the lettering and looking at how the lettering can interact with the rest of the piece to be a cohesive composition, that is on our work docket for this time next week. And then the second will be our last week, where we should be able to then finish that language that we're putting together. So yeah, next week and then December 2nd. those will be the next 2 weeks will be more valuable for you with because we'll be looking more specifically at the technicalities of composition design in general. So let's take this down to 20% and drop down the brush to a really small size. We're going to flatten it out a touch so it's less curved. Let's take that to new layer. Let's take it to 30%. No, not enough. Let's go to 50. Make it really punch out and increase the size a little bit. So we can create this little tuft effect here. I'm going to use the same eraser that we've been using for the other area in here, but I'm using it upside down now so that it hits the angles of the composition differently. But I'm using this thing vertically here to create these, this little brushy tuft effect sort of thing going on in here. So it's a change in texture, and it's a change in shape pattern, so it should read itself across this space. I want to erase at it a little bit here, and you can see that dichotomy here breaking between the two types of bushes. Actually, hold this down a little bit more. There we go. And I got like maybe 5 minutes left for today. But I'm here 6 days a week, Monday through Friday in the mornings, doing page art. Mondays and Thursday nights doing creature tokens and maps. Saturday like this, we do these commissions. I also do 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game design. I do that on Tuesday lunches, and then I have a floating schedule. Depending on what week it is, I'll do either Monday, Wednesday, or Friday as well. Mostly depending on when my work, because I play D&D with my coworkers during the week. So sometimes, depending on what day of the week we're going to play, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, is going to dictate whether I'll be able to stream on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. So I don't get in the way of the team being able to pull a game together for us. It's almost West Marchy in that sense, and we're trying to expand that out. So got about, I think we got 6 coworkers that are interested in actually participating in our future D&D games, and our 20th level campaign is coming to a close here in the next couple months. So we'll have an opportunity to introduce new people into the foray, and we'll see how that changes how that recalibrates the time that we have available during the weekdays at lunch for us to do game design. But we got new stuff coming down the pipe in the new year. As new projects fall off and we bring in the new stuff, the composition of what our conversation is about changes, and it just continues to evolve in whatever direction the current project takes us in. It's always going to be a little bit different. I know that subscribers don't necessarily like change, moving from one gear to another as we switch projects and you lose interest in stuff, but folks that are just interested in what we got going on in general, we'll see how things are designed to kind of curve into each other. So one project builds on another project, builds on another project into a wider mosaic of basically 5e technology and evolving artwork over time. So hopefully folks enjoy the process and find value in what it is that we're creating. I'm going to increase the size of the font here just a touch, but you can see like these little flower buds that are poking out of the brush here. I'm going to erase at them a little bit to help create a little bit of depth, separating one tuft from the next. But you can see how these different shapes just build out of, like I got a lot of brush here, but I'm erasing a lot of it so it like falls into the depth of the soil. By losing light, it kind of loses definition. And again, your eye wants to make up stories about what they're seeing in these shapes. They want to anthropomorphize everything that it sees so that it can relate to and make sense out of it. That's just how our machinery works. It's what we're designed to do. If you really think about it, it means that we're really built to empathize. People don't really think about that a lot, but the more you can relate and understand how something is, technically the more empathy you can have for it. Which can actually lead to greater conflicts because you can understand how much they're actually suffering and how desperate they'll be to get whatever it is that they're trying to get from you. But it also provides an opportunity for us to be able to use our an intuitive desire to make things seem more like us, for us to find reasons to accept things as trustworthy allies or as companions as opposed to threats. That's the maturing of our species as a whole. Without the other. All right, we got a minute to go. I'm gonna bounce out of here. I'm gonna just see if I can get the curve on this bush finished by then, and then we'll step out. Set that to make it sink into the piece a little bit more. There. See? And then what I need to do is add some scrub brush here to create some texture here to blur the line of this beaten path to this knoll. I could flip this over actually, and maybe if I just use a darker color here, I can dig that texture in here real quick before we bounce. 30 seconds left on the clock. I feel like I'm in a British Baker's just trying to get my shit plated before the judges show up. There we go. Yep, that's going to work out. And that's it. All right, guys, that's it for today. But yeah, that's us making foliage. A lot of foliage there, but it's a lot. I mean, this is starting to look more like an environment, right? Someplace that's lived in. So I will be spending time off week tearing up, building up and tearing apart foliage in this environment. I know that stuff is really fun to watch, but I need to get this stuff done off camera too, just to be able to make sure I hit my goal. So fill out the front end foliage. Fix the style of the gate, confer with client about the lettering, reposition the whole piece to push it down. Next week, we'll be able to have demonstration. We'll have a type of style for the portal established that we can finish off. We'll have probably the established lettering for the text, and we'll have this pushed down, and so what we'll have left is blending the bottom edge using that silhouetting work that we showed in the other pieces earlier in the stream, finishing up the portal effect, the feathering of the portal burn into the lettering. That should be it. And then on the second, so we've got about 4 hours worth of content left that we'll be doing here on stream between foreground, portal, lettering. The rest of the composition I'll be able to resolve off screen. So off screen this week, I will finish up this foreground vegetation bit without doing the silhouette feathering at the very end. We'll save that stuff for you guys to see. I'll figure out the effect that we're going to use for the portal to get the brushes that we want to use in place, and then confirm with the client the lettering. And then we'll be able to pull that all together in the next 2 sessions. So I'm out for today. I actually have a dissertation that is going to publish tomorrow in the afternoon. An excerpt from our Eberron conversation from earlier. Yeah, our Eberron conversation from Thursday. There was a fun conversation about the differences in the evolution of DMing from 3rd edition to 5th edition that I thought was worth extracting as a standalone conversation. That's going to drop tomorrow afternoon, so you guys can check that stuff out if you want to subscribe and tune in. I'll be back Monday morning to continue the Rim World, the Ring World illustration that we're doing for the Spelljammer book. I'll be on Monday. At Monday lunch, we'll be doing more martial powers. My Tuesday lunch is being eaten this week by my D&D team, so I'll have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week. No, I won't. Fridays, I don't know about Thursday and Friday because it's going to be Thanksgiving here. I assume I'm not going to be on either one of those days, but if it turns out that friends and family have other stuff that going on that isn't open, like if people are all going to work and stuff and I'm going to be on my own, then basically I'll just stream a shitload on Friday. but I won't be here at all on Thursday. So that's my vacation week. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. If you're new to the channel, like, subscribe. I'm here a lot. We're doing a lot of stuff, and I'm always open to getting questions and conversations from folks. So just want to make sure a little income. Yeah, right on, man. Good luck. So I'm outie. Later, Gators.